Welcome to the Go Use Australia podcast. It's the podcast for Australian shooters who just want the political interference taken out of shooting.
Welcome to another episode of Gun News Australia, brought to you by Politics Reloaded and Gun Traders Australia. And I have again with me Sean Fraser. How you doing, Sean?
Good morning, Neil. It's a sunny morning here in Brisbane, unlike a week ago when we had the cyclone. And I can assure you we're having a better morning here and a better morning in Melbourne than the Western Australia shooters are having at this stage.
Yeah, and at the time of recording, which is mid-March, as pretty much everybody knows, Western Australian shooters will be facing the new laws that they've got under the re-elected Labor government on 31st of March, which will be limiting the number of guns they can own, and also there are some recently announced bans of more guns that will be taken off them. So shooters they're scrambling. They're really trying to do what they can to avoid having the guns simply taken off them. Some of them trying to sell them interstate, et cetera, et cetera. So so if people start making claims that they're a knight in shining armor and come along and can rescue them, then they're big statements to make. And unfortunately, there has been something that's happened that causes at least you and I concern. Now, we're not necessarily making allegations about any wrongdoing, but we will talk about, I guess, a fundraiser that involves money that's been handed over in good faith by those shooters who are really desperate for something good to come out their way. And this is the fundraiser that's been launched by Kate Fanchinell, who's known as Lady Liberty, and I'll just pop up the GoFundMe webpage that is there. Now, many people will have seen this and certainly would have heard about it through her podcast, and also this has been picked up by other podcasts. And as you can see from the fundraiser, this raised nearly $120,000 at the time of recording, where her original target was for $30,000. Have a look at the headlines within this. The obvious one up the top is Fight Western Australia's Gun Laws in the Courts. So we're being clear about that. And that's repeated in the black box, which you can see in the image. She also says, join my grassroots campaign to fund my team of lawyers for real legal action against the state. And there's two phrases there that I'm going to come back to in a minute. The one being legal action and the other is against the state. And then she says, support my pro-firearms lawsuit to defend our sport, hunting traditions and private property. Now, I think at a higher level, you and I actually don't have a problem with legal actions in the court to fight on behalf of shooters. In fact,
those are all fantastic statements taken upon merit. Those are all fantastic statements.
Yeah, they look like positive action. And I can tell you now, if I was a shooter in Western Australia and I had guns that I was going to lose on the 31st of March, I'd look at that and I'd say, hallelujah, brother, I'm in there. I'm going to put in $500. If I'm going to lose $5 grand, 10 grand, whatever it is, I'd throw money in there for that reason.
And a lot of the most recent donation, just look at the front page. We wrote with this morning of the 14th of March, there's a recent donation there from Bruce, obviously a shooter, for $1,000.
Yep.
I mean, there's another top donation of $3,000.
Yep. Who wouldn't?
If you scroll down those donations, there's many donations of $500.
Yep. Okay. Now, what I'm going to show you, I'm going to read a paragraph in this that is not new. Kate has been speaking about this quite a bit, but there is a bit of a trick between the two. It is the statement that of what the money is going to be used for. Okay, now you would have thought that, hey, the money will be used for a pro-firearms lawsuit. What she says here is, my fundraiser will solely be used to fund the work required to obtain the information required for individual shooters to seek legal recourse. I'll use this expert legal advice to inform shooters about the options available to fight the new gun laws in the courts. Now, what she's talking about is legal advice that she's obtained through Carter Dixon law firm. There's a King's Counsel that has been engaged to provide advice in terms of to go through the Firearms Act over there and to see what opportunities there are to challenge it. And from the outset, she did say this. She did say that she would make the advice available to shooters. But the key here is the qualification that it would be to inform shooters about the options available
For they themselves to take legal action, not her.
That was my understanding, and that's how it was phrased originally. Not quite said that way, but well, I guess it might, because it does say required for individual shooters to seek legal recourse. So there's
No, however, on her podcast a few weeks ago, Neil, she clearly stated that she was getting the advice from her legal team through the King's Counsel for other shooters to start legal action.
Yep. Sorry. There is, as at the date of recording, there is no lawsuit in the court. There's no legal action that's been started. Now, let's just take a little bit of a step back and look at what those terms mean. So I've got a couple of some definitions here. The definition that I have of legal advice, which is what's being provided here, is guidance by a qualified legal professional to help individuals or businesses understand their rights, obligations, and potential legal options in a specific situation, which is consistent with what she said. The phrase legal action, which is what she used further up.
Yes, and what she's implying on all the current podcasts.
That means a judicial proceeding brought by one party against another. And other definitions I've seen say legal proceedings or lawsuit. Aha! She actually used the words pro-gun lawsuit in the intro. So she's going to be providing legal advice, but she's, as far as I'm concerned, and look, I stand to be corrected. Maybe there are things that have changed that I'm not aware of, so my apologies if I get this wrong. But based on what I'm seeing there, I'm not.
And what she said, as well.
I'm not seeing that there is legal action, and certainly not by her. If there is, then I've not heard about it. Now, bringing these two elements together, one legal resource that I read actually said this: misrepresenting legal advice as legal action, especially by unqualified individuals, can lead to criminal charges, fines, and even imprisonment.
Yeah, so not something to be messed with.
No, and when you've got a lot of money hanging off the end of it, that adds to the gravity of what's going on here. So if you're a shooter and you chipped in, $1,000, $500, thinking that you're paying for legal action, I'm sorry, what you're paying for is what she said further on, which is information so you can go off and start your own action.
Yes, which she clearly stated a few weeks ago in one of her podcasts. She's not, unfortunately, her GoFundMe has four statements, as you mentioned, Neil, three of which contradict her final statement. So three of which say imply that she's taking legal action in the courts. And then the final statement at the bottom of the GoFundMe page clearly states that all she is doing is obtaining legal advice via her lawyers and a QC, which I have no problem with. If she wants to get that and provide it to shooters, that's excellent. Good on her.
Well,
but don't imply that you are starting legal action in the WA courts on behalf of shooters, especially as shooters are really desperate at this stage, only having 2.5 weeks before they have to hand their firearms in.
They're vulnerable. And as I said, if in fact there was something that had been filed and she was asking for people to join up in the class action or what have you, as I said, I'd chip in $1,000. If the title of the GoFundMe was help support getting legal advice, we need legal advice to fight the government in court, that would have been a more accurate title. It would have been more honest, but it would mean that if I was going to chip in $500 for legal action and now I'm being asked to chip in for legal advice, I'd still be happy to chip in that. I'll put $20 in. I wouldn't put $500 in.
Yeah.
That's, to me, that's what this is about. That's why I'm very concerned about this. And I think anybody who's donated, and you read out some of the donations before, donated big money thinking that we're in court. No, I've got news for you. You'll be getting a letter, as in you'll see a letter. And then,
which you yourself have to take legal action.
yeah. Now, and even if you get the letter out and it's glowing, I mean, if what she produces is great, understand this also, that when people are engaged in legal action, there's at least two parties involved. Okay. So, and each party will go and get their own legal advice. And obviously, lawyer A will say to client A, hey, you got a good chance here, over here. Lawyer, B will say, hey, you've got a chance to defend this, by doing, you've got to have two different opinions and there can only be one winner, okay, in any legal action. So what that means, the odds are that the legal advice that will come out of this will be half right.
Correct.
Possibly. We don't know. I mean, look, it's the King's Counsel. I'm not going to, make a comment on that. But mathematically, not everyone can win a court case. You either win or you lose. Yeah. Joining our YouTube channel entitles you to see the episodes of Gun News Australia as soon as they come out. Plus, we'll be running Friday night live streams starting from April just for our members. So join up using the link in the description to this video.
And now we're not, Neil, we're not saying that her legal team and the King's Counsel are not going to produce a good letter of advice. They might produce a fantastic letter of advice, which is very helpful for shooters in the future to take legal action. The thing is, she herself owns no firearms in WA. She's not a firearm owner in Western Australia. She has no skin in this game, as I'm not even sure if she owns any firearms at this stage. She herself said that she handed in the only firearm she had to her father.
I think I heard something along the lines that she either had guns in South Australia or further, whatever it is. I can't remember, but I haven't watched all the podcasts. I don't know what she said.
No.
So I'm just going off what you said. But you're right, because the only people who can actually be, who can file an action is somebody who's directly affected by this.
Yes.
So it would be people who, and in fact, that raises another issue, that if in fact something was to come out of this, let's say there's enough money to start something and, put, Sean Fraser, Western Australian shooter, up front as the poster boy. If look, you could win a court case, and that'd be really, really good. You can also lose a court case, and you can end up wearing the costs of both sides. So what I'm saying is that you could be put in the spotlight by a knight in shining armor, but your name's on the piece of paper going to court.
Yeah.
And guess who the lawyers on the other side will go after?
Yeah, it's the person actually doing the legal action.
Yeah.
And at this stage, it's not Kate. She's providing legal advice. She's pretty upfront in some of her podcasts what she's doing. However, it's come to the point where she's not mentioning that. She's mentioning legal action as if it's a current court action, which it's not. And also she's now throwing in the term of class action, which she's mentioned in one or two recently. Now, as you know, Neil, a class action will take minimum of 12 months to gather enough information for a legal team to launch a class action, which then will take another 12 months in the court system. So we're talking probably 1 to 2 years away for a class action, whereas shooters have 2.5 weeks before the 31st of March to comply with the. If you have a prohibited firearm, you must get rid of it within 2.5 weeks. There is a letter. Jason, who's a gun shop owner for the Shooters Shed, shared a letter from a firearms inspector. And I'll read, bear me with me, I'll read a paragraph out this. So this is a letter from the firearms inspector, which was received, I believe, on the 12th of March. However, while your prohibited firearm needs to be disposed of prior to March 31, it is acknowledged that for the firearm license, in order to fulfill the established and genuine need in the event of the purchase of a new firearm, must dispose of that firearm. So if you have a prohibited firearm in the WA, and we're talking about the lever action guns or the over caliber firearm, you only have until the 31st of March. If you need to comply, the letter's also gone out to WA shooters. If you need to comply with the over category, in other words, you have more than 5 firearms for hunting or more than 10 firearms for competition, I believe that you have a 90-day window once after 31st of March to comply with those regulations. However, you've only got 2 weeks if you have a prohibited firearm.
Yeah, that's right. And so what you're talking about is the timing problem in taking
Yes.
legal action. So if a class action was going to go ahead or something, but as you said, by the time you get your statements and paperwork to file, you'll get direction hearings sort of scheduled, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, you're talking about a minimum of 12 months before even a class action starts.
It could take years. It really could. Way, way, way too late. Now, again, let's look at this from a glass half full position, because we understand where Kate's coming from, understand her frustration and why this was proposed. As I said, it has its problems because of what we talked about. But if she really wanted to look at what could be done in the short time frame, the only solution I can think of is to get an injunction, which means that you're getting a court order to put a stay on certain things, certain action, until the matter can be fully dealt with in due course. So you're talking.
However, Neil, she herself can't get a court injunction, as you just mentioned. She's not directly affected. She would have to fund another shooter in WA.
Yeah.
To do that court injunction.
Yeah, which, as I said, that can be done. You can put somebody up, but that's the only solution that I see of there being legal action that can be done before the end of the month. The two main areas that you would focus on would be the operation of the laws or the actions of Western Australia Police, okay, which are separate things. One's the parliamentary process that you're basically challenging, and the other would be an administrative action by police. Now, we know what the police have been doing. They've been sending those letters out and doing all sorts of stuff. Now, in terms of fighting the gun laws, which was in the title of the fundraiser, the only real way you're going to be able to challenge the gun laws really is either that the matter is unconstitutional, or that there was a defect in the way the laws were made. The fact that they're bad laws, look, we haven't seen the advice. We don't know, but I'm not going to hold my breath, put it that way, in terms of what it's going to tell us.
No, and if I was I'm a firearm owner in Perth, and Neil, you're a firearm owner in Melbourne. If I was a firearm owner, sorry, I'm a firearm owner in Brisbane, not Perth. But if I was a firearm owner in Perth and I was getting legal letters from the police to comply before the 31st of March, and I wanted to be a firearm owner after the 31st of March, my advice to Perth shooters is don't hold out on a supposed legal action that is not occurring. Comply with any legal letters you get from the police or the Western Australia Firearms Board, or SSAA, who have sent out advice from Western Australia. You need to act within the law to keep your license. You can't withhold after the 31st of March thinking that there's going to be some magical court case, because you're going to be in trouble.
That is absolutely correct. I'm pleased you said that, and it was well said too. That's a message. So you don't hold out on a promise. You just have to go by as you said, what the law says, and what we know as of today, which is the law has not been stopped.
No.
Now, I think if shooters feel that, I'm not saying that shooters have been misled, but if they feel they have been misled and they've donated, I mean, they can always ask for the money back, and there may be other remedies available to them. But again, the thing that sticks in my mind is that headline, the headline that's been pushed all along.
Yes, it's not there is no legal case filed in Western Australia
Yeah.
from anyone at this stage, and especially from Kate, nor is there a current class action.
Yep.
Either of which will take, even if they, as you say, Neil, the only hope in 2 weeks is an injunction, or if it was just a simple legal case, you're talking 6 to 12 months. A class action is going to take 1 to 2 years.
Now, I was also interested, and I'm not passing any judgment. I'm not making any statement in relation to the law firm that she has used. I looked at their website, because she made reference to them several times, so I was curious to who they were and what their expertise is. I'm going to show you their website, and the firm is Carter Dickens. This is the firm that she has engaged. Again, I'll make a little bit of commentary. I went to their services tab. These are the services that they provide. So you can see that it's to children and family law, property law, criminal law, traffic law, restraining orders, probate, wills, all that sort of stuff. That I'm thinking, I just don't understand the link between a law firm that provides those services and a fight against legislation or administrative actions by Western Australia Police. Now, they've engaged a KC who may well be an expert in that area. But as I said, I just looked at that list and it just seemed a bit odd, a bit of an odd fit.
Maybe the property law would come to play.
Actually, it says property and family law. I mean, you're right. Yeah. There may be something. There may well be something in there, but just as the average Joe looking at that, I'm stumped. And if there can be an explanation of that, great. There probably doesn't have to be an explanation because, like I said, it's actually been they've engaged a KC. So
Yeah, well, if she's doing what she said she was doing, getting legal advice from her legal team and getting a letter from a KC, which is obviously a King's Counsel. That's all you're getting, shooters. That's all you're getting for the. What are we up to now? $119,000. You must take, you yourself, if you're a Western Australia shooter who is directly affected, as you said, Neil, to launch legal action, you must be directly affected. If you are directly affected, you can take that letter that she's producing and start your own legal action. Now, Neil, you mentioned this last night. Now, whether she donates funds to you in good faith for you to start your legal action, that'd be a great thing. If she uses, like that, the remaining, say, $100,000 after getting the King's Counsel advice to help you start legal action, that's fantastic, and I'd say good on her. But she hasn't mentioned that. She's saying that the money is for her legal action, whereas she's not doing any legal action.
So if you're affected by the fundraiser, then, as I said, you can always raise it with Kate. There are other matters that relate to this that we will not be covering today, but in the next episode, and they include the Western Australian election, which obviously has led to this. They also include other statements that have been made along the way in relation to the gun rally that was held. I think there was a claim that you were a member of the Shooters Union. That was made.
Yes.
Untrue. Is it another one that's untrue? And also, she made some reference to me being in some sort of trouble, which is also untrue. So, although I think she was feeding off a comment that was in one of her, given to her in one of her feeds. So, Sean, can you just give us a quick rundown of what this is about and what shooters who are in this position should do?
Yeah. Now, Western Australia shooters, I feel for you. You are in a world of hurt. You're in a world of pain. And if I was losing thousands of dollars of firearms in 2.5 weeks, I'd be really, really worried myself. And I'd be donating to anything I could, especially to someone who said they were filing legal action. Unfortunately, this is not what you are donated to. You are going to end up getting, in a week or so, a letter formulated by a King's Counsel, a KC, where you yourself must take that letter to file in the Western Australian courts, whether it be the county or Supreme or High Court, whatever, to file your own legal action. Kate herself hasn't started any legal action. So just be careful of what you are donating to and be clear of what you are donating to.
Well, good. Thank you for that, Sean. So, look, that's it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. And as I said, we'll be back sort of fairly soon for part 2 of the story.
Looking forward to it, Neil.
Thank you very much, Sean. We'll see you later.
Have a good morning.
See ya. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Gun News Australia. If you're a subscriber to our YouTube channel, you'll have access to every episode of Gun News Australia as they're scheduled to be published. But now you can also join the channel. Joining the channel means you'll get access to those episodes before they're published more widely. And you'll have access to our Friday night live streams, which are starting soon. So to find out more, select the join button on a YouTube channel or see the description in this episode for details.